Part 33. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 332. The exploding rocks flew into the sky, and then fell on the earth like meteorites. In an instant, the ground with a radius of several kilometers became a mess. Ogula raised his sword and gun from the broken mountain section, and his eyes that seemed to be burning under the red helmet rim scanned the surrounding ruins, and soon found the divine river crawling out of a piece of broken earth and rocks. The fist reaches the abyss. Your vitality is really tenacious, just like your Kamigawa civilization. I am different from your previous opponents. I will lead the Titan Legion to trample your capital star under my feet and turn your city into a burning purgatory. As Ogula spoke, he stepped forward towards Lin Yuan's position. Each step could span a distance of hundreds of meters, and as he moved, the terrifying heat began to spread around him. The surrounding ground began to melt, and faint sparks floated up, and then the air seemed to begin to burn. From a distance, the red armored ogules looked like a burning sun. At this moment, Lin Yuan, who had just climbed out of the earth and rocks, looked a bit miserable, with ugly burns all over his exposed skin. Although he successfully stood up, everything in his side was distorted by the high temperature. Now he wanted to point at the commanders of the Strategic Adjustment Office and scold him. Because Lin Yuan found that the compatibility between himself and the Titan god Ogula was unusually different. To deal with such a huge existence, he should call Texas, who is good at attacking fortresses, but not the flying light of Kamigawa. That's okay. At this moment, a beautiful figure with blonde hair jumped from a distance. The huge gun with an astonishing length in its hand shot out blazing white beams with a diameter of more than 1 meter in mid-air, directly penetrating the burning surroundings of Ogula. The fierce flames were blocked by the arm guard he raised, leaving small red dots on it. The person who came was none other than Kamigawa's Spear of Snow, the original super-genetic template of Kamigawa's Sniper, and the second-generation god-making project of Kamigawa's civilization. The special firearm in his hand, called the Light of Dawn, is extremely powerful and has a range of tens of thousands of kilometers. It can snipe space battleships in space within the atmosphere. Previously, Piexu was supporting Lin Yuan's battle 100 kilometers away, but it was obvious that the Light of Dawn, which had strong attack power in the past, was not enough in front of Ogula red armor with exceptional defensive power. As a result, Piexu could only keep looking for opportunities to target the only flaw in Ogula's armor, the exposed eyes on the face of his helmet. But because of the distance, when Tuo Shui found an opportunity to snipe, Ogula could often deal with it calmly. In addition, Lin Yuan had just been shot by the Titan god who was on fire and was extremely miserable. Therefore, Tuo Shui was worried and quickly approached the battlefield. During this period, he kept firing to delay Ogula pace. Lin Yuan's physical injuries have mostly recovered at this moment. As a god of war, his body is not that fragile. You must know that the body of a god is extremely strong, and even its recovery power is very strong. As long as it is not a fatal injury such as decapitation, body explosion, or being hit by a god-killing weapon, it generally will not fall instantly. Piexu fell on the ground several kilometers away from Lin Yuan. He raised the dawn light in his hand and fired out a stream of blazing white beams in the direction of Ogules, aiming at an unusually tricky position in front of him. Ogula raised one hand to cover his face, and the giant spear he held in the other hand aimed at Lin Yuan's position in his memory and struck down hard. The originally dry and cracked earth suddenly had a huge gap that cracked forward, with molten liquid lava flowing in it. Lin Yuan had already left the place at this moment. Under the cover of the fire power of Peng Shui from behind, he jumped onto the giant gun in Ogule's hand. He jumped to his shoulder armor with a few vertical jumps, and then jumped forward and bent his arms. Accumulate strength. Ogula glanced at the scene from the corner of his eyes. He crouched down to avoid Lin Yuan's charged punch. At the same time, he flexibly used his left foot as a fulcrum to spin back and stand up, and swept the giant gun in his hand upwards. Lin Yuan punched in the air and was filled with surprise. The next moment, fierce pressure swept through his body, making him almost unable to move. When he turned his head, he saw a gun blade dozens of meters long and 10 meters wide coming towards him. In the distance, Piao Shui's heart felt cold, because Ogula did not forget to block his vitals while doing this. Seeing that Lin Yuan was about to be hit by the giant gun, Tuo Shui had no choice but to move the muzzle of Don's gun, and shot out a low-power beam, shooting Lin Yuan, who was unable to move in the air, away, allowing him to avoid being hit by the giant gun. The fate of the shot. When Lin Yuan was hit by the beam, he held out a thumb, causing the corner of Tai Shui's mouth in the distance to twitch slightly. Next, Lin Yuan and Pai Exu cooperated with each other at a distance, leaving the Titan god Ogula helpless. However, even if he was besieged by the two battle gods of Kamigawa, he still had a slight upper hand. In the end, this battle between gods ended with the defeat of the two war gods on Kamigawa's side, thus ending, and the army of the beast body civilization once again advanced into a star field. Lin Yuan reported to space that the Titan god was too huge, and that his Fist of Kamigawa-jin, as a special god-making project aimed at targets of the same size, was too incompatible with fighting with it. After discussing with other senior leaders of the Kamigawa civilization, Spaceflight felt that Texas, the Kamigawa war god who was best at attacking fortresses, should be transferred to the Titan battlefield where Lin Yuan was located. However, the transfer of a war god is not that simple. The front line he is responsible for requires a new war god to succeed him, and there is also the alternation of command authority among the various units. During this period, Lin Yuan and Pai Exu organized several attacks in an attempt to recapture the lost star field. However, because the Titan god Ogula and his Titan fleet were too powerful, ordinary soldiers could not afford it. To no avail, they counterattacked several times but failed. As long as the Titan god Ogula comes to the battlefield, the terrifying heat boiling around him will roast ordinary soldiers alive in the exoskeleton armor. Even a generation of warriors cannot support it for too long. Only people like Lin Yuan and only a fighting god like Pai Shui could withstand this extremely harsh battlefield environment. Gradually, the soldiers of the Kamigawa civilization gave the Titan god Ogul's nickname, that is, the moving natural disaster and the scorching purgatory. What happened on the Kamigawa front had little impact on Binghua, who was far away in the Red Star Ring, because the Skyblade fleet under her command began to hibernate to rest and prepare for the attack on the core area of the Shima Star territory. The Stargate built by the combined fleet has almost been completed. The fleets and ground forces of the Sakaz, Kebrei, Migra, and Mora civilizations have been recruited from the 01 system to the 02 system by Binghua. Then Tianren and part of the combined fleet headed towards the star system called Cantor in the northeast of the Shima star field. According to the deciphered Shima Beast battleship database, Angel has figured out the general situation and composition of the Shima star field. The Shima Empire is an animal civilization that relied on war and plunder. It emerged 5,000 years ago. It combined the technological weapons plundered from the Shenhe civilization with its own strong physical fitness to create the ever-victorious army of the Shima Empire. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 333. Relying on this army that combined technology and barbarism, they attacked the stars and plundered the land, expanded their power wantonly, and destroyed all the beast-shaped civilizations and divine river body civilizations in the star field that did not surrender to them. A small number of animal civilizations that surrendered to the Shima Empire were assimilated by them. As for the several divine river civilizations that surrendered, apart from delaying their own demise and being enslaved by the Shima Empire and surviving for a period of time, they did not end up with any good end. When the Shima Empire was at its peak and was about to continue to expand its star map, the Titans, the actual rulers of the Red Star Ring, approached them. However, the emperor of the Shima Empire at that time was unwilling to surrender the huge empire to a group of giant orcs, So he fought a battle with the fleet of the Titans. As a result, this war directly destroyed Emperor Shima's self-confidence. The Shima Empire surrendered to the Titans and respected them as gods in awe. This is the rough history of the Shima Empire. After thousands of years of development, the Shima Empire has now become a behemoth with more than 150 recruiting planets and 33 casting planets. It is the civilization with the largest number of people among the Titans, and it is also the grassroots force in the war between the Titans and the new Kamigawa civilization. Now the main forces of the Shima Empire are fighting fiercely with the Kamigawa civilization in the new Kamigawa galaxy. There are only standing troops left behind in the Empire. It is precisely because Binghua knows the situation that he plans to lead the combined fleet and the Skyblade fleet to attack this a huge interstellar empire. The Cantor star system is a foundry recruitment star system near the border star field of the Shima Empire. This star system has a total of 8 planets. Cantor 3 is a recruiting planet, and it is also a habitable planet with a temperate climate. Cantor 4 is a foundry planet, a small planet rich in resources. The entire planet is dotted with giant metal buildings and connected smelting plants. This planet can produce more than 30 medium-sized warships and 60 small warships at the same time, supplying weapons and equipment for tens of millions of Shima soldiers. A space disruptor device and a planetary fortress with a large barrier force field were built on Cantor 5. This large-scale force field defense system has the effect of deflecting energy attacks and delaying physical attacks. Coupled with the dense orbital defenses erected on the planetary fortress, it is a nightmare for an aerospace-grade civilization. But today, this formerly peaceful star system ushered in its first invasion in its long and prosperous time. The space disruption device in the planetary fortress of Cantor 5 had just sounded a piercing alarm, and a large fleet jumped and sailed over the planetary fortress of Cantor 5. Without any warning, an orbital bombardment was launched directly towards the planetary fortress on Cantor 5. Because this star system has never experienced the baptism of war, the Shima orcs in the planetary fortress did not activate the barrier force field at the first time. The space disruption facility was severely damaged in the orbital bombardment, but fortunately the garrison commander of the Shima Empire was not stupid. After a moment of panic, he activated the barrier force field facility to deflect and disperse all energy attacks from the orbital bombardment. Then the dense orbital defenses in the Shima Empire's planetary fortress began to counterattack. For a while, the combined fleet was unable to deal with this barrier. The artillery fire of the orbital bombardment was weakened by more than 70%, and our own side continued to increase losses. Seeing that the fleet he was carrying out orbital bombardment continued to suffer damage, while the Shima Empire fortress on the surface of the planet suffered very little damage under the protection of the special force field, the Moran commander just wanted to yell, "This is so shameless." But then Mora received an order from the Angel civilization, and the combat goal had been completed and they could retreat. Almost at the moment when the Mora civilization retreated, a super light wake flashed along with the jump sail. The combined fleets of Kebre and Gra broke into the atmosphere of Cantor 4 and began to attack the Shima Beast fleet parked in outer space. Just when the fight between the two sides was fierce, 2 Skyblade battleships sailed out of the giant space wormhole created by the space jump. As soon as the giant Skyblade warship appeared, the Kebre's Megarion fleet, which originally relied on their numerical superiority to defeat the Beast fleet, fought even more vigorously. However, the Skyblade did not attack the Beast fleet together with the combined fleet, but instead poured all its firepower towards the surface of the planet. A terrifying mushroom cloud immediately rose from the surface of Cantor 4, but it failed to destroy all targets in the first time. Because a layer of translucent barrier force field protects some large metal buildings, even the Skyblade's spear of light bombardment can be withstood. The foundry planets and planetary fortresses in the Cantor star system have all been attacked, and Cantor 3, one of the recruiting planets, is naturally no exception. Compared with the other 2 planets with extremely strong self-protection capabilities, Cantor 3 is very ordinary. It has no positional shield that can cover the entire city, and there are no patches of orbital defenses. The ones responsible for attacking Cantor 3 were the combined fleets of the remaining Angel-affiliated civilizations and the Sakaz people. They received only one instruction, which was to destroy the living forces on Cantor 3 as much as possible. While these 3 planets were burning with raging flames of war, Binghua's 25 Skyblades and the remaining half of his combined fleet were quietly watching the scene in the star field surrounding the Cantor star system. One day later, the war in the Cantor star system entered the next stage. The combined fleets of Sakaz and other civilizations had conducted orbital bombardment on the surface of Cantor 3 for more than 15 hours. Except for a few fortresses and solid refuge facilities in the city center, everything on the surface has been blown to pieces. In the past, when the Angels carried out annihilation operations, they would withdraw their troops after destroying the planets in the Shima Empire. However, this time the combined fleet received an order to eliminate all living forces on the planet. So the combined fleet began to prepare for intra-atmospheric and orbital airdrop operations, intending to land on the surface of the planet and completely destroy all the surviving Shima orcs on Cantor 3. Cantor Star 4, which is not far away, is still suffering from the orbital bombardment of Tianren, Kebrei, and the Megara fleet. Even though their results are limited, they are still enjoying it. This gave the Shima orcs on Cantor Star 4 the illusion that the enemy attacking them was not strong, and they only needed to wait until reinforcements arrived to launch a counterattack. So the war situation in the Cantor galaxy was immediately sent to the administrative center of the Shima Empire by the orcs on Cantor Star 4, and then transferred to the Shima Emperor by the Imperial Military Council. Emperor Shima was furious after receiving this news. It had been too long since no one had challenged the majesty of the Shima Empire. Of course, the defeat in the frontier star field in the front-end time did not count. That was a defeat. But now the unknown cats and dogs dared to sneak into the Empire and attack important casting planets. As the Emperor of the Shima Empire, he would never allow the Empire to be provoked like this. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 334. The Shima Empire relied on war to rise, and its administrative system was also very rough and simple. It was a typical military-controlled society. Every civilian was recorded in the imperial archives after birth, received combat and military training from an early age, and was always ready to contribute to the empire. The power of a small number of Shima orc geniuses can escape the fate of becoming soldiers, learn all kinds of knowledge, and become the mainstay of the empire, serving as commanders or captains. The emperor is the absolute master of the Shima Empire. The Imperial Military Council below is the Emperor's think tank, providing advice and suggestions to make the Empire stronger. Although due to the coercion and orders of the Titan Protoss and the Tianding Stars, the Shima Empire had to send the main force of its army to the expedition to the new Kamigawa galaxy to participate in a war that was of no benefit to itself. But this does not mean that the Shima Empire has lost its control over the Shima Star territory and its ability to guard the Star territory. Under the orders of Emperor Shima, the war machine of the Shima Empire began to operate at high speed. The fleets that were originally cruising in various parts of the star field began to gather near the Cantor system, intending to gather a large fleet in the shortest possible time. All enemies attacking the Cantor system were wiped out. While the Shima Empire hurriedly gathered fleets from all over the star field, Sakaz and some of the angel-affiliated civilizations had completed preparations for landing on the surface. Heavy footsteps sounded in the aisle of the warship of the Sakaz civilization. A nearly 3-meter-tall humanoid guardian knight holding a large prismatic shield and a large firearm walked into the open hatch, as if he were a normal person. Like a Sakaz man, he sat on the vacant seat inside, and then his body was trapped by the fixed frame that fell from above his head. Wisps of gunpowder smoke rose from the ruined land, and the burning fire turned this originally prosperous city into scorched ruins. The only building that can be considered intact may be the large building in the center of the ruins that is full of iron-blooded style. At this moment, intensive gunshots and explosions were heard around the building. The hail of flying bullets was like a rain curtain, accompanied by rising clouds of fire. Relying on special barriers on the top of giant buildings, the few Shima orcs on Cantor 3 survived the carpet-like orbital bombardment. They gathered together to form a large force, intending to hold out until the arrival of the Imperial Army. However, what they did not know was that it was extremely easy for the Angels and the combined fleet to destroy their defense line. However, the Shima soldiers and warriors who were occupied by revenge and despair at this moment did not have time to think about this, because they had been surrounded by the ground troops of the Kamigawa civilization that had descended from orbit, and they were making their final resistance like trapped animals. In the sky above its head, there are several large warships hundreds of meters long, which are dropping airdrops downwards from time to time. The huge metal chariot crushed all the ruins along the way into debris and moved forward against the firepower of the Shima soldiers. Behind the large tank was a group of soldiers wearing simple exoskeleton armor. They stepped forward as the tank advanced. Facing the final resistance of the Shima orcs, the coalition forces were not without losses, but they were still within limits. On the contrary, for the Shima soldiers, this was a battle of survival. They became extremely crazy and fearless of death. The originally fierce and anxious battlefield began to reverse after the Sakaz ground troops arrived, and the coalition's front began to advance rapidly. Boom! With a muffled sound, a 6-meter-high airborne landing pod fell to the ground, and then the hatch opened quickly, spraying white gas. Accompanied by the sound of heavy footsteps hitting steel, a tall figure holding a huge edged shield walked out of the shadow of the drop pod. As he appeared, more and more figures came out of the airborne pod behind him, until a small organized army was formed. For the gods we believe in. Advance, Guardian Knights. Heavy footsteps stepped on the ground filled with ruins and debris. The Guardian Knight held a shield in one hand to block most of his body, and the large caliber gun in the other hand spit out blazing fiery snakes. The Shima soldiers who fought against the group of metal knights in the distance immediately suffered heavy casualties. The flying objects that looked more like cannonballs than bullets hit their bodies, easily destroying their body armor and beating their strong bodies. It became several pieces. The special armor worn by the Guardian Knights was very strong, and coupled with the huge edged shields they held in their hands, the normal firepower of the Shima soldiers could not destroy them at all, but could only slow them down. Because the shields in the hands of these metal knights contain part of the Angel's technology, and there is a rudimentary force field protection system inside. Some Shima soldiers with heavy weapons were helpless against these metal knights. Only a few Guardian Knights were unlucky, and their armor malfunctioned under the concentrated fire of the Shima soldiers. The shield protection of some of the metal knights was broken through, and their armor disappeared in the rising firelight. Even though the strength gap between the two sides was several times greater, the coalition still spent a lot of effort to eliminate the Shima soldiers who resisted to the death. What happened next was very simple. The coalition forces that received Binghua's order to eliminate the active forces of the Shima orcs were not satisfied with the current results and began to attack the civilians who were hiding in the underground shelter facilities without wearing armor but taking up arms to resist. Attacked. In this massacre of the weak, the Sakaz Guardian Knights were at the forefront. They angrily denounced the Shima orcs as heresies who will not receive God's favor, while killing them with high-power weapons. The war to clear out the planet Cantor 3 lasted for nearly half a month, and the coalition army finally confirmed that all the Shima orcs on the planet had been wiped out. After that, it was time to collect the loot. The combined fleet began to plunder the ruins of the Shima orc city, pack up the damaged barrier field equipment and take away the weapons and armor of the Shima soldiers, intending to transport them back to their own civilization for reverse engineering. Crack. Binghua turned a blind eye to their behavior. The angels were not interested in these rags, so it was better to let the affiliated civilization reap some benefits. With the complete fall of Cantor 3, the Shima orcs on Cantor 4 gradually panicked. They urgently requested support from the Empire and prayed to the Titan god they believed in. Although the Shima orcs on Cantor Star 3 were successfully eliminated, Binghua did not let the fleet bombard Cantor Star 4 to increase its intensity because the opportunity he was waiting for had not yet come. But Binghua believes that the time will come soon, and then she will be able to turn the huge interstellar empire that rules the Shima star territory into a piece of loose sand. Sitting on the throne of Tianren flagship, Binghua thought so. His expression was frighteningly calm, and he didn't feel any nervousness at the critical juncture of his plan. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 335. The warships, whose surfaces were covered with thick armor and whose hulls were covered with forts, began to gather in a star system that was separated from the Cantor star system. Unlike the warships of the Kamigawa civilization, the warships of the Shima Empire did not carry small fighter planes. They only had close-in defense systems and several main guns throughout the entire hull, as well as numerous secondary guns. Because piloting fighter planes requires extremely high talent, and it is extremely difficult to train pilots, the Shima civilization abandoned this unit and instead developed in the direction of strong ships and sharp guns. Therefore, the fleet operations of the Shima Empire are usually very rough, relying on the firepower of one's own warships to forcibly defeat the opponent, or relying on the strength of the warships to ram into the enemy, launching an interstellar engagement battle, and relying on its own dense close defense system to annihilate the enemy. Small Flying Unit. After nearly 10 days of dispatch and assembly, the Shima Empire finally assembled a large fleet and prepared to immediately set off to support the Cantor star system. According to the latest news from there, the Cantor star 4 was almost unable to hold on, and had lost contact with Cantor 3 a few days ago. The fleet dispatch of the Shima Empire is all under Binghua's control. All the Skyblade warships are already in place, waiting for the Shima fleet to dive into the pocket. In the past month, except for rest time every day, Binghua, who was sitting unshakably on the heavenly blade throne, finally stood up. Jingnan outside the hall saw the queen leaving the throne and walking out, and quickly greeted her, saying in surprise, "Queen, you are finally willing to come out." Hearing this, Binghua looked at Jingnan and said in surprise, "What? You haven't seen me for a while, are you missing me?" Jingnan nodded quickly, making Binghua feel funny. "Come on, since you want me, come with me to the war room." After saying this, Binghua turned around and walked towards the Tianren war room, and Jingnan quickly followed. Along the way, Binghua nodded to the angels who greeted him and arrived at the bridge command room of the Skyblade flagship. Compared with the conference hall located in the upper palace of Tianren, the bridge of Tianren is located in the hull of the ship. After Binghua arrived at the bridge, he did not disturb Angel Ruyun's command and dispatch. After signaling with his eyes that Ruyun did not need to be with him, he and Jingnan found a seat and sat down, casting their gaze at the huge face in the air. Projection. From above, it can be clearly seen that the Shima Empire's fleet jumped to the outskirts of the Cantor star system and did not rush in immediately. Because the commander of the Shima fleet was skeptical that the Cantor system could survive the bombing of the unknown fleet for nearly a month. So they had the fleet jump to the outskirts of the Cantor star system, and a part of the fleet was separated from the fleet and headed into the star system to test if there were any traps. This made Binghua, who was observing the battle, a little surprised. The Ishma orcs were originally a group of guys with big heads and muscles, but they didn't expect them to be so cautious. But Binghua didn't care, because his plan was a naked conspiracy, and although the fleet remaining in the Cantor system was just bait, it was not easy to deal with. After exchanging information with the planetary fortress on Cantor 5, the small fleet separated from the Shima fleet went straight to Cantor 4, preparing to use its own strong ships and cannons to entertain the invading empire of enemies. 2 hours later, the originally confident Shima fleet was beaten to pieces by the two Sky Blades and the combined fleet anchored outside Cantor Star 4. There was no way to fight back, and only one battleship was spitting out black smoke. He slipped away and fled back. Then the combined fleet and the Sky Blade continued to bomb at the Cantor 4 star, without any intention of taking the Shima fleet parked outside the Cantor system in their eyes. This made the commander of the Shima fleet feel a sinking feeling, and the captains below were all requesting to fight. They couldn't bear the enemy's contempt for them. It's not that those captains are stupid, it's just that now their side has assembled more than 200 warships and has the upper hand. The enemy only has 2 large warships that are more coaxing, and the remaining only has more than 40 small and medium-sized warships. Don't be afraid. However, as the commander of the Shima fleet, he always felt that something was wrong, because it was too strange. Why did the other party keep bombarding Cantor 4? Could it be that there was something they needed on it? But the next moment, this conclusion was overturned by the commander of the Shima Empire, because the Cantor system was developed by the Empire, and there was something special on it that should have been discovered by the Empire a long time ago. So the fleet commander once again separated 1/3 of the fleet, and went to Cantor Star to conduct one last test. If there was no ambush, he would use the entire fleet to launch a general attack. Nearly 100 warships rushed into the Cantor Star system, approaching the combined fleet located around Cantor Star 4. Seeing this, Binghua felt that his plan to encircle and annihilate the Shima fleet might not be completed, because the Shima fleet was not fooled at all, and even used the thankless tactic of refueling. Perhaps his intention to encircle the point and mobilize reinforcements was too obvious. Come on. However, there is no perfect plan on the battlefield, and now that the Shima fleet has been divided into 1/3, which has led to a decrease in its overall combat effectiveness, it is also a good fighter. So Binghua ordered a direct attack on this fleet and tried his best to keep them all here. Binghua stopped paying attention to what happened after that, because she was confident in her Sky Blade fleet and she would definitely win this war. Things did not go as Binghua expected. The war was declared over a few hours later. The battle report was compiled a day later and was sent to Binghua in the flagship by Jingnan. The main force of the Shima fleet was wiped out, and only some of the warships dispersed and escaped. The affiliated civilization is currently pursuing them. Our own affiliated civilization destroyed 18 warships and over 40 were damaged. 1 heavenly blade was damaged and 3 were slightly damaged. Angel warriors lost 621 people in this battle and 11,000 were injured. More than 1,000 people. Binghua looked at the battle report and sighed, as if he was saying to Jingnan beside him, and also to himself. No matter how powerful we become, as long as there is a war, angels will fall. Jingnan, do you think their sacrifice is worth it? It was obviously not easy to survive until Merlot Heaven was established. Binghua's voice became very low for the last sentence. Recently, she found that as she participated in more and more wars, these casualty figures gradually no longer had a great impact on her heart. Somehow today, seeing the casualty report, Binghua's mind suddenly recalled the Battle of Marrow Star hundreds of years ago. That battle was extremely cruel, and many of Binghua's familiar faces disappeared in that battle. Binghua remembered how much they wanted to live in the current era of Merlot Heaven. But now Binghua discovered that even though the female angel had risen and established her own order, Merlot Heaven, there would still be endless wars. The day before yesterday I was fighting a male angel, yesterday I was fighting the Eternal Ascended One, and today I was fighting a beast body civilization. I don't know what existence in the universe I will have a conflict with tomorrow. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 336. After the Battle of the Cantor System, Binghua believed that there was nothing in the surrounding star field that could threaten the United Fleet. Even if the Shima Empire planned to regroup its troops and take back the Cantor system, it would still take time to raise supplies and fleets. This is the disadvantage of the Shima Empire. Although they are powerful, most of their strength is devoted to the war with the new Kamigawa civilization. There are not many fleets and troops left in the Shima Star territory. Now that Binghua has come to drain the ship, it is impossible to gather a large fleet to recapture the Cantor system in a short period of time. Although Binghua was not good at general strategies, he still had the confidence to defeat an aerospace-grade beast empire. Binghua issued an order to the fleet of the affiliated civilization. Taking advantage of the time when the Shima Empire was mobilizing materials to reorganize the fleet, it would radiate the invasion from the Cantor galaxy to the surrounding areas, occupying the maximum number of Shima Empire's recruiting planets and forge the planet. After Binghua left 3 Sky Blades to prevent any accidents, he led the remaining Sky Blades and planned to cross half of the Shima Star territory, bypassing the Shima Empire on the way to recruit troops, cast planets, and directly attack its center of power. The news that the Shima Star territory was invaded is not a secret, because the Red Star Ring is the base camp of the Beast Body civilization. However, due to the Shima Empire's own reasons and the Tianding Stars and Sabata War Alliance's intention to weaken the Shima Empire, they did not take the initiative to provide support. Although the Emperor of the Shima Empire was furious about the failure of the war in the Cantor system, he could not change the fact that the Empire was unable to reinforce the southeastern star region. The solution given by the Shima Empire Military Council is to first abandon part of the southeastern star field, and while the invaders are digesting the results of the battle, gather all the fleets and troops in the western star field of Shima, and engage in a decisive battle with the unknown forces that invaded the empire. Destroy them. Because there were Shima battleships that successfully escaped during the Cantor Galaxy War, the Shima Empire also had part of the information on the Angel Fleet. Among them, the invaders had an extremely large combat unit. The battleship, which looked like a hanging sword, was naturally regarded as a key target for analysis. Are considering how to destroy this giant battleship. The Gram Galaxy is the most prosperous galaxy in the Shima Empire, and it is also the administrative center and manufacturing center of the Shima people. It has the most efficient casting planet, the largest planetary fortress, and of course the home planet of the Shima Orcs, Gram 4. There are large and rough-looking buildings erected on Gram 4. These buildings are the power hubs of the Shima Empire. Among them, the tallest and largest brown-yellow obelisk with metallic luster is the Royal Palace of the Shima Empire. Today was like every other day, wearing a gorgeous metal shawl and armor, a strong orc about 2.5 meters tall, Shima Emperor Moga stepped into the main hall and sat on his dark gold throne. Before Emperor Shima could warm the throne under his buttocks, a member of the military council suddenly came to report in a panic. Oops! Your Majesty Morgus! A mysterious fleet has arrived at the outskirts of Gram Galaxy. The strong orc, who was called His Majesty Morgus by the old orc below, was startled. The brown pupils in his eyes widened suddenly and he said in disbelief. How is this possible? You are definitely joking. Even though Morgus knew that the old congressman had no guts to joke with him, he still asked in disbelief because what he said was too fantastical. The Gram Galaxy is located in the north-central part of the Shima star field and is the hinterland of the Shima Empire. There are large-scale reconnaissance facilities in the surrounding galaxies. How could it be possible for the enemy to get close to the owner of the house? However, the facts were placed in front of Morgus at this moment, and he could not tolerate disbelief, because in the star field in front of Gram Star 7, a huge fleet composed of giant battleships was rapidly approaching. At this moment, it was just a short distance from the Battle of Cantor system. Only 1 month has passed. Binghua did not choose to stay in the Sky Blade this time. Instead, he put the Sky Blade flagship into command mode and sat on the exposed throne of the Sky Blade, which belonged to the King of Sky Sword. This month, the Sky Blade fleet has been conducting a jump voyage, and finally arrived at the outskirts of the Gram system on the 32nd day. It was interfered by the space jamming device and was forced to withdraw from the jump voyage. There was nothing to say. Binghua didn't say much this time, nor did he communicate with Shima's civilization. He directly ordered his fleet to take action. The three Skyblades directly began to connect to the star in the Gram galaxy and began preparations for the star-destroying strike. The remaining dozen Skyblades began to provide cover. Although Shima's side has not yet figured out what civilization the fleet that suddenly appeared in front of them belongs to, they are not fools and cannot see the naked hostility of Tianren. Among them, the three Skyblades that were connecting to the star were so eye-catching that they immediately became the targets of the Shima fleet stationed in the Gram galaxy. What Binghua needed to fight this time was to be quick, to react before the Shima Empire and destroy their center of power, thereby plunging this huge interstellar empire into chaos. So they adopted the least technical but most efficient way of fighting at the time, which was to use the entire army to attack everything. After resisting the firepower of the Shima Empire's garrison fleet for a while, Tianren immediately rushed towards the opponent, and then began to drop angel warriors, intending to destroy the fleet as quickly as possible. For a time, the dense crowd of angel warriors and Shima warships formed a magnificent picture of the starry sky. In the battlefield where cannonballs and beams of light were flying across the battlefield, countless angels shouted in their hearts, "Former low heaven, for the Queen." They rushed towards the Shima battleship, which was like a behemoth to them. From time to time, a heavy Shima battleship, hundreds of meters long, like a mobile fortress, exploded from the inside and turned into cosmic dust. There were also angel warriors who rushed towards the battleship and were hit by high-energy shells fired by the Shima battleship. They flew backwards with blood vomiting from their mouths. The weapons in their hands slipped and became angel warriors floating among the countless universes present. Angel Ran looked at the scene and wished she could step into the battlefield to kill the enemy like Hizui and the others. However, she also had her own battlefield, which was to be responsible for the instant mobilization of the entire fleet to prevent defensive loopholes. After an hour of melee between the two sides, Tianren finally completed the modification of the stellar energy collection formula and began to connect to the stars of the Gram galaxy, using them as an energy supply to charge the Star Destroyer strike. Dazzling lights began to gather in the void in front of the three Skyblades, and as time passed, they gradually formed a giant slowly rotating energy vortex. Because it was far away from the star and the Skyblade made a long jump voyage, charging lasted for half an hour before it reached the energy standard to destroy the planet. The next moment, three terrifying orange-red light pillars with a diameter of more than a kilometer were launched from the energy vortex in front of the Skyblade, directly bombarding the surface of Gram 7. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 337. The impact point of the Star Destroyer strike was not the planetary fortress on Gram 7, but the surface next to it, which happened to avoid the large barrier force field deployed by the planetary fortress. Three orange-red beams bombarded the planet, making a deafening noise. Under the continuous bombardment of terrifying energy, the surface of Gram 7 was melted through, then the crust, and then the mantle. Because it is far away from the star, the collected stars cannot maintain a sustained output of star-destroying energy, so the output of the Skyblade was suspended for a period of time. But this frightened the Shima orcs stationed in the Gram 7 star fortress half to death, because they could personally feel the painful whine of the planet under their feet, and the earth under their feet might crack at any time and be poured up from the ground, swallowed by lava. Therefore, when the Skyblade stopped delivering star-killing strikes, the Shima orcs on Gram 7 had already begun to evacuate. They wanted to survive more than being buried with the planet at their feet. At this moment, the power of the god-making civilization emerged. Although angels are not keen on destruction, they still have the power to destroy a planet in a short period of time, while ordinary civilizations lack defense methods. Seeing that the Shima orcs abandoned their fortress and began to retreat to the rear star field, Tianren stopped the planet-destroying strike. No matter which civilization it was, it tried its best to avoid the destruction of planets. Soon after, the Shima fleet stationed in the Gram system also suffered heavy losses and began to retreat towards the Gram 4 star. The Skyblade fleet advanced rapidly, crossing 3 large holes on the surface of the planet, and the planetary fortress burned with the flaming Gram 7 star. On the way, devastating bombings were carried out on the Shima orc facilities on Gram 6 and 5. Because the war situation was urgent, no angel warriors were sent to clear it out. Binghua looked at the enemy fleet that was waiting closely around Gram 5, and Gram 5 whose entire planet surface was covered with metal facilities. He calmly gave instructions to the high-ranking angels who gathered around him. The enemy wants to fight us here. It is estimated that there should be some special defense measures on that planet, and the Star Destroyer strike may not have any effect. But our target is not it, but the planet behind it, so don't get too entangled with Gram 5 after the battle begins. After annihilating that fleet, we can bypass the 5-star and attack the 4-star behind it. That is the capital star of the Shima Empire. Hearing this, Angel Ran and other high-ranking angels and Captain Tianren replied at the same time. It's the Queen. The angel fleet did not stop to rest and quickly started the second war in the Gram Galaxy. 10 hours had passed since Binghua led the fleet to the Gram Galaxy. Star systems other than the Gram Galaxy are quickly gathering fleets to rush here, hoping to rescue the capital galaxy. However, because the last battle of the Cantor system had just ended, there were not many fleets left in each system, and there was no time to slowly assemble. Therefore, all those supporting the Gram system were small fleets. This is also the reason why Binghua ordered to bypass the Gram Star 5 and attack the rear Star 4. She wanted to destroy the capital star of the Shima Empire in the shortest time, so that this civilization could not gather all its strength to deal with the angel civilization. After Tianren made some formation adjustments, he used the alternating cover tactic to advance forward, which could reduce the rate of decline in the intensity of the light energy barrier. After a fierce fleet battle, the garrison fleet of the Shima Empire was crushed by the Skyblade without any accident. Planet Gram 5 is just as Binghua expected. It is a very difficult planet to attack. It is covered with barrier force field shields and orbital defenses. Coupled with specially built large-scale permanent anti-ship weapons, it can be easily attacked. A fleet of aerospace-grade civilization is blocking the way here. And because of the space interference of the Shima civilization, the Skyblade cannot make a space jump to reach the Gram 4 star behind it. In order to make Gram 5 star a guardian of the capital star, the Shima orcs made certain modifications to Star 5 and forced its orbit to change. If you want to bypass this planet and attack the capital star behind it, you must first withstand its firepower. For an ordinary aerospace-level civilization, if you want to cross this firepower zone, you will definitely suffer heavy losses, but for a celestial battleship, as far as the Skyblade is concerned, it just loses some shield strength. This time, when annihilating the Shima fleet around Gram Star 5, Skyblade did not drop the angels, but relied on its own powerful firepower to defeat them head-on. Then relying on the light energy barrier to withstand the intensive anti-ship firepower from Gram 5, it took several hours to finally sail around Gram 4 and approach the atmosphere of the capital star of the Shima Empire. Compared to Gram 5, which looks like a hedgehog, Star 4, which is the capital star of the Shima Empire, is undoubtedly much more beautiful overall. But if you look through the atmosphere, you can see the beasts on the surface that are full of beasts. Civilized buildings and cities are characterized by roughness and brutality. In the heavenly blade pressure realm, an army of angels surrounded it, forming a scene that looked like a sea of floating clouds. Emperor Shima saw it through a projection. He couldn't help but think of a piece of video material he had seen in the deepest part of the palace under the leadership of his father more than 10 years ago. That is the precious image data left behind when the Titans arrived in the Gram galaxy thousands of years ago. The Titan fleet inside was also parked outside the atmosphere of Gram 4. A Titan warrior wearing golden armor and holding a giant soldier stood in the starry sky of the universe, looking at them through the atmosphere like a god looking down at mortals. In the end, due to the huge disparity in strength between the two sides, the previous Emperor Shima surrendered to the Titans and became its affiliated civilization, and conquered the universe for them. This incident gradually disappeared among ordinary Shima orcs under the control of the royal family. Only the royal family knew how powerful the Titans were. This is why the Shima orc army of an interstellar empire would obey the orders of the Tianding people on the battlefield. Now looking at the picture, the Kamigawa creature is not wearing any auxiliary equipment, its wings are exposed in the vacuum, and the giant battleship is surrounding it. Emperor Shima knew that the possibility of the capital star being able to persist was very low, because it was in existence of the same level as the Titan god they believed in, that is, the god of the divine river creature. Binghua and the angels parked outside the atmosphere did not know what Emperor Shima was thinking on the planet. Looking at the planet in front of him that was shown as the capital star of the Shima Empire in the data, Binghua slowly stood up from the throne. Jingnan, who had been standing quietly under the throne, saw the queen getting up and walking down the high platform where the throne was, and asked softly, "Queen, what are you doing?" Binghua didn't answer Jingnan's question immediately. He didn't speak calmly until he passed her position. "Ever since I became the Holy Left Wing, I have never set foot on the battlefield. This is not good for the long term. Today, I, the king, will personally deliver the final sword to this beast body empire." Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 338. Although Jingnan admired Binghua, he did not have the awe that the older generation of angels had for her, so he warned her. "Queen, you are the commander of our fleet and the queen who leads us in battle. You will never enter the battlefield. If something happens to you, we..." Binghua raised his hand to signal Jingnan to stop talking. He looked back and said with a helpless expression, "Why have you become the same as Ran before, so fond of opposing my king's entry into the battlefield? Have you all forgotten that this king is not the kind of king who sits on the throne and rules everything, but a fighting king who fights out of the war? So Jingnan, you don't have to worry about my safety. Your queen is very strong. There is no being in this galaxy who can hurt me." Binghua put her palm on the shoulder armor beside Jingnan and said something to reassure Jingnan, but judging from her face, it was of no use, so Binghua suddenly felt a bad taste. The hand originally placed on Jingnan's shoulder armor moved to Jingnan's left cheek and gently stroked it. Binghua said something in a very strong tone. "What, are you afraid that I will die in the hands of those orcs?" Jingnan's body stiffened suddenly. I don't know whether it was due to psychological effects or nervousness, but he stuttered a little when he spoke. "Queen, what are you doing?" Jingnan's cheeks were slightly red, her body was trembling slightly, and her voice was like a low moan. Her reaction made Binghua feel depressed. "What's wrong with you? Why did you suddenly become like this? This is not like you usually do, Jingnan." Binghua lowered his hand that was caressing Jingnan's cheek. He felt that Jingnan was quite interesting at the moment, but now was not the time to dwell on this. The sky blades have been arranged, and all the second-generation angel warriors are ready to break into the atmosphere. As the leader, it is time for Binghua to issue the attack order. "Angel warriors, hold on to the weapons in your hands, this battle will be a battle to destroy the country. Your mission is to destroy all enemies in front of you and wipe out everything on the surface." Binghua stood on his flagship combat platform. While issuing the attack order, he carried out his King's Sword 7 kills and swung it towards the Gram 4 star ahead. Compared with hundreds of years ago, the 7-killing King's Sword has not changed much, except that the sword body has become a little thinner. There is a small convex blade on both sides of the sword, and the sword grid looks like a heaven-defying blade with wings spread. 15 sky blades are connected together to press towards the atmosphere of Gram 4. The barrier force field that can block energy attacks is under the pressure of the light energy barrier of the 15 sky blades. The energy consumption is rising in a straight line, and it will arrive in a moment. The overload value. Like breaking through a viscous liquid, as a sky blade passed through the barrier force field established by the Shima Empire on the mother planet, the Shima Empire's capital star began to enter a countdown to destruction. The angels had no secrets to hide in this battle, and almost half of the expedition fleet's strength was devoted to this battle. Therefore, the defense line of the capital star of the Shima Empire collapsed rapidly. In addition, this was a surprise attack, and the opponent was not prepared. As a result, the angel warriors who broke into the surface were overwhelming and unstoppable. The Skyblade, which broke through the barrier force field, also began to perform its duties as a battleship at this moment, and the spears of light scattered down towards the city of Shima City below. Centered below the Skyblade in the sky, the surrounding cities for several kilometers were instantly reduced to ruins and swallowed up by rising orange fire clouds. Under such efficient destruction, the so-called powerful army and fortifications of the Shima orcs are all a joke. Binghua looked at the ruins with black smoke floating around, as well as the Shima soldiers and some heavy fire vehicles rushing in from a distance. He raised his right hand in the shape of a pistol, closed his left eye and aimed in the right direction, and slightly raised the corners of his mouth to imitate the gunfires when the trigger is pulled. At the same time, in the void on the right side of Binghua, a long sword with a simple appearance shot out like a laser. There were more than a dozen Shima soldiers running towards us in the distance. One of them had a large hole in his chest directly penetrated by the silver light. He vomited blood and fell to the ground. His companion behind him was affected and lost an arm. It's Wingman. Attack quickly. Attack. The reason why the Shima orcs call the flying Kamigawa creatures in the sky winged people is because they all have wings on their backs, and the term winged people is very vivid. Regardless of the battle on the ground, although there are many small battleships in the air, they are unable to provide support to the Shima soldiers below under the encirclement and suppression of the angel warriors. As for why Binghua is on the ground, it's because the air is too chaotic and she can't use it. The ground is different. There's no need to worry that the attack trajectory will affect other angels. Facing the hail of bullets coming towards him, Binghua's response was very simple. With a thought, several shields appeared in front of him. Then a long sword was stretched out from Binghua's body and suspended in mid-air. As Binghua exerted influence on it, the sword began to glow with an orange-red light. But soon a slight cracking sound reached Binghua's ears, and with a glance from the corner of his eye, Binghua saw tiny red cracks appearing on the long sword. Sure enough, ordinary alloys cannot withstand too much dark energy blessing, but it is enough to be used as a disposable item. Binghua raised her right hand and bent her fingers forward, and the long sword on the side of her body, which was about to break, shot towards the Shima orcs in front of her who were shooting at her. This time was different from the previous piercing attack. The long sword exploded violently in front of the Shima soldiers before it touched anything. Like a high-energy bomb, the spreading orange fire cloud engulfed an area of 7 to 8 meters in radius, and the fragments of the broken sword left everything around it full of holes. This is an unexpected surprise, Binghua thought. This weapon module called Fekongyojian has been gathering dust in the arsenal for hundreds of years. I originally thought of getting rid of it in the near future, but unexpectedly it changed. I found a way to use it, and its power turned out to be quite good. In this war, Binghua felt like he was in no one's land. He killed countless Shima soldiers while wandering around. Whether it was heavy vehicles or soldiers who concentrated fire, they were all blown into pieces under the attack of Binghua's flying sword. Fragments. Compared to Binghua's easy destruction of the enemy, it was much more difficult for the angel warriors in the air. I don't know why the Shima Empire stationed so many small battleships on the capital star. These warships are nearly 200 meters long, with cannon ports all over them. To destroy such warships, it would take a generation of angels to work hard, and even risk death. Only several second-generation warriors joining together and using flame bombing can destroy them in a short time. After arranging the dispatching of the battleships, Angel Ran also entered the battlefield. It was not that she was unwilling to perform her duties as a commander, but that the combat effectiveness of a third-generation angel was enough to change the outcome of a local war and reduce many unnecessary problems. Necessary casualties. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 339. Angel Ran flapped his wings to increase his speed explosively, and rushed out of the formation of the angel team. Compared with the ordinary flaming sword, the heavy sword in his hand had more sacred language on the spine, and surrounding thunder burst out. He directly ignored the high-energy cannonballs fired at him, raised the flaming sword with dazzling lightning in his hand, and rushed forward, crashing into a Shima's small battleship. A few seconds later, he was seen rushing out from the other end of the battleship. He turned around and waved the sword in his hand, pulling out a thunder sword energy several meters long and hitting the battleship. The fate of the battleship was different after that. Although it did not explode and disintegrate on the spot, it still fell to the ground with black smoke. It's not like Ran didn't do anything after he crashed into the battleship. Instead, he used the thunder and lightning converted from dark energy to wreak havoc inside the battleship before rushing out of the battleship. However, the impact of destroying a battleship on the overall battlefield was minimal, so Angel Ran began to take over some of the Angel's command on the battlefield. Your team will go to the airspace on the left and assist the Angels there to attack the enemy warships. Go and weaken the firepower of the Shima soldiers below. Remember to be careful. Their weapons can damage your bodies that are not protected by armor. Soon Angel Ran assigned various tasks to more than a dozen nearby angel teams. After doing this, her eyes glanced back and forth on the battlefield, and soon she focused on a battleship that was chasing 3 angels. She leaned towards the target and moved her wrist. The thunder clung to the sword body again, shining dazzlingly. Like a god holding a sword of thunder. Emperor Shima was sitting on the throne in the palace, listening to the deafening explosions outside, and felt a sense of powerlessness in his heart. But apart from the feeling of powerlessness, there was still a glimmer of hope in his heart, and that was the Titan Protoss fleet of gods. As the emperor of a civilization affiliated to the Titan Protoss, he certainly had the means to contact the Titan civilization. When the Angels launched an attack and overwhelmingly defeated the defense forces on Gram 4, he contacted the Titan fleet cruising the Red Star Ring. Indicating that a fleet of gods from the Kamigawa civilization attacked the home planet of their civilization and asked for help from the Titan gods. The most important thing now is to hold on until the Titan fleet arrives in the Gram galaxy. However, according to the sailing speed of the Titan fleet, plus the green lights across the Shima star field to stop interfering with space, I believe it will not take 5 hours to arrive here. Thinking of this, Emperor Shima showed a ferocious look on his face, opened his mouth with fangs and said to himself, "You wingmen who dare to invade the Empire, just wait for the arrival of God's fleet. Then I will definitely make you pay a heavy price." Binghua below looked at the shining thunder in the sky and the wreckage of warships that exploded and fell from time to time, and sighed inwardly that the application of Ren's thunder drive technology was already very mature. However, seeing that the city was not decreasing at all, and a large number of Shima soldiers appeared from time to time, Binghua felt that the city should be destroyed as soon as possible to avoid unexpected situations. Although angels are powerful, their numbers have always been a disadvantage. In addition, unlike ordinary technological civilizations, they do not like to use long-range weapons. They are at a disadvantage when facing enemy siege. Binghua wanted to change this bad habit of angel civilization after he established Merlot Heavenly Court, but he found that firearms were really not suitable for angels who had wings and were very flexible in the air. So he gave up the idea of forming a new angel legion, and instead started with weapons, transforming the Tae war spear into a weapon suitable for both near and far. Now it seems that its performance on the battlefield is good. At least the war spear thrown by a generation of angels can destroy some of the exposed turrets of the Shima battleship. In the short time when Binghua was distracted thinking about the above problem and stopped attacking, a large group of Shima soldiers rushed over and filled the position of his companions who had been wiped out by Binghua King. Are popping up one after another, trying to use fuel tactics to delay the arrival of reinforcements. Do you really think I can't see it? But your goal is destined to be impossible, because the existence of this king is the biggest flaw in this tactic. Binghua thought in her mind after observing the surrounding situation. Not long ago, Binghua had a hunch that something unexpected might happen in this war, so she planned to fight it quickly. Binghua's right hand hanging by his side was raised. Instead of stretching out his fingers to aim at the enemy as before, he grabbed the air on the left side with a virtual grip. Almost as soon as Binghua grasped it in his palm, the hilt of a silver-gray sword protruded from the void. As Binghua grasped the hilt and twitched, a giant sword with a slightly weird blade was completely transported out of the wormhole. Maintaining a horizontal posture with the sword raised, Binghua's mind and the microcomputing cloud located in the dark plane began to calculate at extremely high speeds. At the same time, the light within a few dozen meters of Binghua's center showed traces of slight distortion. The next moment, the long and narrow giant blades were carried out of the wormhole and converged towards the front of the giant sword in Binghua's hand like birds returning to their nests. As more and more giant metal blades were carried out, the front end of the giant sword that kept gathering in Binghua's hand increased in length. The width of the giant sword did not increase much, but the length increased sharply, rapidly breaking through kilometer mark and counting. The alien giant sword that Binghua carried out was none other than the Star Blade of Destruction. After such a long period of modification and the inspiration from vague fantasy weapons in his memory, Binghua gave the Star Blade of Destruction several shapes. According to vague memories, this weapon with an astonishing length seems to be a weapon in a fantasy work, and its name is the God-Killing Gun. Binghua held the hilt of the Destruction Star Blade with both hands. The abnormal power brought by the divine body and the Destruction Star Blade itself made it not difficult to lift it flat. If anyone could observe the length of the Destruction Star Blade in Binghua's hand at this moment, he would be horrified to find that its length has exceeded 3,000 meters. It was also the first time for Binghua to use this form of the Star Blade of Destruction. Although it could still increase its length, it would not be able to lift it evenly if it was added. The next moment, Binghua's left knee slightly bent and he held the giant sword in his arms, and with his right arm, he swung the Destruction Star Blade forward and slashed horizontally. The crashing sound of collapse continued, and as the Star Blade of Destruction, which was more than 3,000 meters long, was swung horizontally 360 degrees by Binghua, all the buildings within a radius of 8,000 meters centered on it began to collapse due to the slash. As for the Shima soldiers and civilians who were hiding behind the bunkers and preparing to rush out in waves to delay the angels, they suffered heavy losses from this blow. Binghua just waved the Star Blade of Destruction once and did not intend to wave the sword in his hand again, because the surroundings were surrounded by the remains of collapsed houses. As the war continued, the Orc city on Gram 4 was gradually entering destruction, and soon the angels advanced to the vicinity of the Shima Palace. But outside the Gram galaxy, a burst of aurora representing a jump voyage is passing here. Within the aurora that cannot be seen clearly are supersized heavy space battleships. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 340. In 10 minutes, with the help of the Destruction Star Blade in his hand, Binghua turned into a crazy demolition team and demolished all the buildings within a radius of more than 10 kilometers for the Shima capital star, even exceeding the instantaneous destruction speed of the Sky Blade. However, such crude destruction cannot completely wipe out the hiding Shima orcs, it can only destroy their hiding place. But even this is enough. By now, most of the surface of Gram Planet has been destroyed by the Sky Blade. Many angel warriors are cruising on the ruins. Whenever they find an enemy, they will throw their war spears to snipe. At this moment, the roles of the Shima orcs and the Ike people on Ike were reversed, and this time they acted as the weak ones to be killed. While Binghua was leading 15 Sky Blades to wreak havoc on Gram 4, destroying the center of power of the Shima Empire, 8 Sky Blades in outer space were blocking the support from the Gram 5 area. Small fleet. Just when the war situation was stabilizing, and the Angel's strategic goal would soon be accomplished if this continued, dozens of fleeting blue rays of light came from the depths of the endless universe. The Skyblade's reconnaissance system immediately gave a warning message, and the Angel in charge quickly reported to the captain sitting on the Skyblade. "Captain, multiple jump signals have been detected. They are not warships of the Shima orcs, but unknown large combat celestial bodies. They are jumping here, and the landing point is Gram 4, which is right next to us." Captain Tianren, who was sitting in the main seat on the bridge, shrank his pupils and quickly called up the image projection of the outside of Tianren. Almost at the same time, with a burst of light and shadow distortion, a behemoth suddenly appeared next to the Skyblade fleet. It was a pitch-black battleship with sharp edges, and traces of orange light were faintly revealed through the gaps in the thick-looking armor. Its length reaches an astonishing nearly 20,000 meters, and there are densely packed large forts located above the hull. This is not the end yet. As this giant battleship of nearly 20,000 meters appears, more than a dozen distorted blue lights appear around it again. The next moment, giant battleships of the same style as the previous giant battleship appeared one after another, 10 in total, and then 15 battleships that were over 10,000 meters tall. However, the light representing the leap did not disappear. Rather, the distorted blue light and shadow that was more powerful than the previous battleships began to emerge, and condensed into 5 black giant ships with a length of about 30,000 meters and more numerous turrets. Suddenly there were so many behemoths in the outer space of Gram 4, and even the space here seemed a bit crowded. At this moment, on the ground, the Angel warriors and the few surviving Shima small battleships stopped fighting, and even the Skyblade stopped bombing the area below. Binghua was looking up at the 30 large black spots in the sky besides the Skyblade. As soon as he loosened his grip on the Destruction Star Blade, the Destruction Star Blade began to spontaneously disintegrate and was carried back by the micro-wormhole. In the arsenal, Binghua Sakura pursed her lips slightly, and her intuition came true. Sure enough, something unexpected happened, and the accident seemed quite big. As the commander of the Heavenly Sword King and the entire Heavenly Blade Fleet, Binghua was no longer interested in staying on the ground and playing with those Shima soldiers, and the hidden angel wings unfolded. The next second, the ground beneath Binghua collapsed to form 2 footprints, and she soared into the sky with blue thunder, quickly heading towards her Skyblade flagship. At the same time, each Skyblade and the Angel warriors under its organization also received an order. Angel warriors, stop the battle on Gram 4 planet now. All Angel warriors on the planet's surface, please board the nearby Skyblade immediately. The Skyblade is about to leave the surface and take off to fight the enemy. Angel Ran listened to the circular broadcast of the female angel in the communication, and then took a look at the oppressive black battleships outside the atmosphere that were no worse than Tianren. A solemn look appeared in his heart, and he immediately ignored the Shima battleships that were gathering their defense lines. Turning around, he raised his sword and flew towards a Skyblade parked behind. At this moment, in the Shima palace where several large holes were blasted by the Skyblade, the laughter of Shima Emperor Mogus echoed throughout the hall. The previous feeling of powerlessness was swept away. Instead, he was in a mood because of the arrival of the Titan fleet. Became extremely excited. Quickly, let me contact the Titan god. I want to express my gratitude. Facing Morgus's order, the orcs below naturally did not dare to neglect and quickly retreated to take care of it. At this moment, the Titan fleet and Skyblade had a tacit understanding and did not attack each other. They were both taking the opportunity to gather the scattered warships and form a formation that was conducive to the battle. Your Excellency Letanilla, we have arrived at the target location in the Gram system. There is a fleet of unknown civilization on the left side of the fleet. Do you want to launch an attack immediately? The huge figure sitting on the main seat looked at the half-kneeling subordinate asking for instructions, and said unhurriedly. No rush, adjust the fleet formation first, and wait until King Shima contacts us to explain the situation. I am very curious about the civilization that can turn them into such a dog-like state. Letanilla is the deputy captain of this Titan fleet, the captain of the frigate responsible for supporting the Gram system this time, and the temporary fleet commander before the mothership arrives. When he answered the subordinate's question just now, his tone did not take Shima's civilization seriously at all. There is nothing the golden armored Titan below can do. This Letanilla is a genius from one of the Titan clans and is a strong contender for the position of the next god of thunder. He does not care about those weak civilizations at all. Of course, these high-ranking Titans and Titan warriors are similar, but because the Titan God King once issued an order not to kill affiliated civilizations at will, these Titans will not be as obvious as Letanilla. Binghua flapped his wings and flew quickly through the Sky-Blade corridor. The angels along the way spontaneously made room for the queen. After reaching the end of the corridor, Binghua landed and folded his wings and stepped into the bridge of the flagship, followed closely by Jingnan. How is the situation? Have you identified any civilization's fleet? Ruyun, who was commanding the angels below to gather the warriors with the Sky-Blade and prepare to take off, turned around when he heard the sound, saluted Binghua, and then spoke in a solemn tone. Queen, according to the comparison results in the database, this fleet should belong to the Titan civilization's fleet, because the appearance and characteristics of these battleships are consistent with the descriptions in the information we deciphered from the Tianding Star people. Binghua's face also showed a hint of solemnity when he heard this, because among the major forces in this physical war, the one standing behind the beast body civilization was the Titan Protoss, the Kamigawa body civilization was Kamigawa and the Angels, and there was another one whose information so far has not been revealed, unspecified triangular creature. While the Skyblades gathered their forces, Emperor Shima finally contacted the current commander of the Titan fleet, Letanilla. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 341. Letanilla sat on the main seat and looked at the humble appearance of Emperor Shima in the projection below, feeling very happy. I already know that you reported it in time this time. Since it is the fleet of the advanced Divine River civilization, it is normal that you cannot compete. Next, they will hand over to our Titan gods, and you will find that the gods you believe in are invincible. After saying these words, Letanilla raised her hand to turn off the projection, and asked a golden armored Titan below. How long will it take for the mothership to jump over? Your Excellency, it will take 5 minutes. Hearing this, Letanilla waved her hands impatiently and said, forget it, don't wait any longer, just line up and prepare to attack. Since we have determined that they are Kamigawa people, then destroy them all to prove the power of the Titans like us. After receiving the order, the golden armored Titan bowed to Letanilla and then turned around and left, preparing to convey Letanilla's order. Emperor Shima Mogus in the royal palace looked at the closed communication, and the humility on his face immediately turned into anger. In the phone call he just had with the senior management of the Titan fleet, the other party did not take him seriously at all. His words showed no concern for the survival of the Shima Empire. You must know that the Shima orcs have helped their Titans fight thousands of years of war. Now that the capital star of the Shima Empire is in danger of being attacked by the Shenhe civilization, the senior officials from the Titan Protoss still have an indifferent attitude. This undoubtedly makes Emperor Mogus of Shima feel unusually uneasy. But even if his heart is clear, Morgus can't show it yet. As a civilized emperor, he still has to be the grandson of the Titans, not to mention how uncomfortable it feels. But one good thing is that the winged people with wings on their backs have begun to retreat from the surface of the planet. Because it felt bad to write about Birdman, I changed it to Wingman. Two fleets of giant battleships faced each other across a star field above Graham's atmosphere. An inexplicable sense of depression was transmitted to the surrounding Shima orc captains who were watching the battle. But at the same time, they also comforted themselves in their hearts. This was the legendary existence that countless animal civilizations called the God's Fleet. It would definitely be able to easily destroy the winged man warship with wings on its back. Binghua is carefully observing the formation of the Titan fleet at this moment. She knows that the two sides will definitely fight, but it can be delayed for a while, because at this moment, the Sky Blade is charging the light energy barrier, replenishing its strength to the maximum, and at the same time, part of Tianren is also quietly preparing a star-killing strike. Suddenly the projected Titan warships began to change their formations, and the smaller assault ships began to turn towards the Sky Blade. Binghua's pupils shrank. The Titan fleet was already preparing to attack. Based on the principle of striking first, he immediately blurted out the attack order without hesitation, even though there were still two Sky Blades converging here. The formation of the 21 Sky Blades that have been gathered together is like an erect prismatic shield. When the command of Binghua's attack is transmitted to each Sky Blade, the dense spear rays of light are dragged along. The long tail attacks the Titan fleet. Although there is no sound in the universe, the light and color reaction caused by the energy explosion is as beautiful as the blooming red lotus flower. The spear of light can be regarded as the regular attack method of the Sky Blade. Its power can easily penetrate the shields of ordinary aerospace-level civilizations and is extremely easy to use. But this time the spear of light was slapped in the face. In the dense fire cloud that exploded, the Titan assault ship violently broke through the fire cloud and rushed out. The rear of the battleship sprayed out a magnificent light blue flame, which was like a knife against the front of the ship. The sharp collision angle rushed towards the direction of the Sky Blade. At this time, the Titan frigate at the rear also completed its turn, and the dense turrets located on its hull began to rotate in the direction of the Sky Blade. The next moment, thick orange beams of light shot towards the Sky Blade one after another, hitting the light energy barrier of the Sky Blade and causing ripples. Sky Blade's counterattack was also decisive, with extremely penetrating spears of light constantly bombarding the hull of the Titan battleship. Although the Titan battleship has no shield, the spear of light hitting its hull can only leave a shallow crater of tens of meters, and its armor thickness has reached a crazy level. As for Skyblade's light energy barrier, because it is relatively close to the star, Skyblade's star energy conversion efficiency is extremely high, so the energy of the shield does not decay too quickly. In addition, the Titan warship did not launch a star-killing weapon, so there were no warship casualties on either side for the time being. However, the situation of the battle soon changed. As the captain of the Titan destroyer, Letanilla originally thought that this was a very simple battle, but he did not expect that the enemy warship was not only big but also extremely durable. In anger, he directly ordered the Titan assault ship to attack forward at full speed. The Titan destroyers and frigates all pressed forward to concentrate their firepower, intending to take advantage of the rough skin and flesh of their own warships to destroy some of the opponent's warships first. Suddenly, the space behind the Titan fleet seemed to be distorted in time and space, and dense blue light points and particles began to appear, and slowly condensed into a supergiant battleship, a ferocious battleship made of several rectangles melted together, but ice flower rather than a battleship. It is called a mobile planetary fortress. And that should be the Titan's mothership, and it is also the most powerful battleship of the Titan civilization recorded in the Angels Decoding Tianding Star Battleship database. As soon as the mothership entered the battlefield, Litanila, who originally commanded the fleet operations, was immediately deprived of command rights and was taken over by the higher-level Titan god Tigrila. Looking at the unhappy Litanila in the projection, a smile appeared on the somewhat aged face of the Titan god Tigrila. "Little Litanila, what's wrong? Are you unhappy that your command has been deprived of you? If that's the reason, you can rest assured. You will have your own Titan fleet in the future, but for now, let's deal with the Kamigawa people who have invaded the Titan realm first." Although Litanila was arrogant, she did not dare to challenge Tigrila's authority, because this was a contender for the throne of War God. Although she failed in the end, she could only regretfully call herself a Titan god, but she could defeat him. Downloading is still very simple. When Tigrila took over the command of the battlefield, his eyebrows immediately wrinkled. These winged warships were not simple, they could withstand the indiscriminate bombardment of Titan warships. Although the Titans are not famous for fleet warfare, and their battleships are not very technological, their battleships are large enough, their armor is thick enough, and they are famous for their powerful bombardment. Not to mention ordinary civilizations can withstand it, they can be carried away in one wave by just shooting. Only the battleships of the ancient Kamigawa civilization that did not die out thousands of years ago can suppress them. But this winged man who appeared out of nowhere actually has the ability to withstand the firepower of Titan warships. This news must be reported to the God King. This will definitely be a huge blow to the war dedicated to suppressing the Shenhe body. Variable. However, this was not enough to make Tigrila feel fearful. Since conventional firepower could not break through the defenses of those winged men, they would have to use star-destroying ones.